almost every American every day relies quite heavily on electronic devices in the home, your computers, charging your smartphone, some of us even our cars and things like that. We all rely on this electricity, but our greatest strength could also be our greatest weakness. So what would it actually take to bring down the electrical grid across America? Now we have a little bit of information. This is coming from reporting by the Wall Street Journal, and they looked into a report by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that said this: if you destroy just 9 interconnection substations and a transformer manufacturer, the entire U.S. grid would be down for at least 18 months, probably longer. That is not the Wall Street Journal implying that. That is the FERC saying that. Now, I don't personally know how much it would take, how much coordination it would take, how many people and resources to take all those down, but it does seem less difficult than you would imagine. Desi Doyen, you've been looking into this.
Well, yeah, I've been following this story at Green News Report, and that's one of the really shocking things about this particular FERC report. We have to backtrack a little bit. Back in April, there was a sniper attack on an electrical transmission substation in San Jose, and they had a small group of snipers. They don't know how many people were there, but in about 19 minutes, they knew where to shoot, they knew where to dig, where all the vulnerable spots were on this substation. They were not able to bring it down. They fled once police got there, and they could work around it. The electrical grid operator for the state worked around that, so there weren't any blackouts. It really didn't get a whole lot of attention. Yeah. However, this report is an internal report that was put together, an analysis for the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, and this is what the Wall Street Journal obtained, and it actually breaks down what the minimum level of a roadmap to blacking out the entire United States would be. So during a heat wave, as few as 9 substations, we have 30 critical substations apparently, but as few as 9 could be taken out and strategically placed around the country. And if you could also knock out a transformer manufacturer, because transformers take about 18 months to build one from scratch, and they're very expensive. Mm-hmm. So
we don't have any in our
So we don't have any backups. You know, we don't really have a whole lot of backup transformers in stock. And that is one of the things that was really surprising about this particular Wall Street Journal article, which FERC then came out and said this was highly irresponsible. We should not be publishing a roadmap, even though all the details and the specifics were not included. But we shouldn't, the locations were not in it, but they said we shouldn't be publishing a roadmap like this. And the Wall Street Journal is basically saying, you know, the former FERC chairman came out and said this over a year ago. He didn't detail exactly how many, but he did say we are extremely vulnerable because of our centralized system and our aging infrastructure.
Well, I mean, there are other FERC minds. Thing is, what I'm saying is the substations, right? Because there's one right next to Starbucks. I go to all the time. They don't have wheat bread.
Right.
I don't understand. It's a substation. How do you not have wheat bread? Right?
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Am I wrong?
Usually. No.
And when you look at these substations, you can see there have been some changes that are going to happen. You know, that Congress has said, okay, we need to boost our security around these substations, but you know exactly what needs to be done and who's going to pay for that when we have such our Congress isn't moving forward on a whole lot of infrastructure funding.
I'm always really fascinated with how Congress and the U.S. government as a whole is always so worried and paranoid about non-threats, right? Yes. But when it comes to actual threats, they get notified about it a year ahead of time, and they're like, whatevs. Yeah. And then then you have a major paper publishing how vulnerable we are to this catastrophe, and they're like, no, you don't want to publish that roadmap. How about you pay attention to that roadmap and you do something to protect us from a potential disaster? But no, we just got to make sure we keep funding the Defense Department. We got to make sure that we keep spying on Americans, because as Senator Feinstein has said, there are people abroad with big bombs, and we got to stay safe.
Big bombs that go boom. So it's very scary.
It's even sillier than that. Like, we should be dealing with this. That's why I don't care that it's irresponsible that they mention it. If nothing else, it could scare the government into doing something about protecting it. And apparently right now there are no federal rules requiring utilities to protect the vital substations, except those at nuclear power plants, which many are not. But yeah, like the fact that Americans are more scared about the threat of gay marriage than they are about our entire electrical grid being taken down, I think that's ridiculous. And yes, of course, it would be extremely difficult for individuals, or maybe a terrorist organization, to take all of these down. Very hard. a military threat of ours, a country like China, Russia, or something like that, still difficult, not as difficult. And the thing is also, the former FERC chairman apparently said that he thinks the solution is a distributed network of solar power generating units around the country, which I think would have a lot of other benefits as well, but would help to protect us against this sort of catastrophe.
Are you an advocate for investing in renewable energy? Don't you remember what happened with Solyndra? That's it. Solyndra, it failed, and we can't invest in that.
Those
the
light
entire
bulbs.
solar industry
Don't
is
like 'em.
horrible.
Yeah.
No, it's one of the things that I thought was really surprising for the FERC chairman to come out and say that, because generally FERC has only dealt with the big utilities, and for him to become an advocate for this decentralized, non-privately owned, which is what most of our utilities are. They're owned by investors, and they are very difficult to get them to go along with any kind of new regulations. So that's a pretty big deal for him to come out and say distributed generation is the way to go, decentralized. It helps us in storms, it helps us in natural disasters, it helps us all over the place, and yet we still have that halting from the, for example, Republicans, shall we say. You know how they always say that they're big terrorist hawks, but when it comes to actual terrorism, they shut up. They don't say anything.
Yeah, no, they're going to stop all those minimum wage terrorists from coming across the borders and cutting our grass.